And good evening, everyone. Welcome to another PaintCast today of Red Modeling Paint Studios. We're glad to have you here with us tonight. On air with me tonight for this first part of this session is Anthony. Anthony, why don't you say hi to everyone?
Hello, everybody.
So Anthony has contacted me and ordered himself one of these paint casts, and what we're doing for him is we're going to be doing Issyria, obviously. Am I pronouncing that right, Anthony? Or is it Issyria?
Issyria, but I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah, who knows? This privateer press model is what we're doing tonight. And the other one that we'll be doing with him is Imperatus, which is a cool jack. I'm excited to do that one. But what interests me though, Anthony, I think the most about this project that I'm going to work with you on tonight is the color scheme that you want to go with. It really has me intrigued. It's one of these things that it's just so simple that I think it's really going to look awesome when we get it done.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, some of the ideas that I'm having, I was really stoked when we were back and forth on email about where this could go. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're kind of thinking color scheme wise, so the folks watching know what's going on.
Sure. So I was just talking, and I don't really care for the studio scheme for Rhett very much. I've heard a lot of people say they just kind of look like oversized iPods. So I wanted something that conveyed like they're definitely the most technologically advanced race in the Game of War machine that we've met yet. So one thing that I thought was really interesting is doing like a gray and orange theme. It's just a really modern, kind of clean theme. The thing that got me really inspired was there's another painter who I've followed for a little while. His name's Tom Shadle. I don't know if you're familiar with Tom Shadle, but he's mostly moved on to doing infinity models now, which of course are real futuristic and that kind of stuff. And
cool.
He did a group of minis with they were wearing gray armor and they had an orange glow effect under all the armor plates. And man, it just looked so sweet. And I thought, man, I wish I could do something like that, So
okay.
I think that would translate well to Red. They've got kind of the same kind of thing going on with the modernity and the technologically advanced stuff. So hopefully we can get something going in that regard.
Yeah, I think this is going to look really cool. Just to give you an idea of, when we were going back and forth in email, I'm going to add another window capture here real fast. Just give me 1 second. And why I'm talking about this, because when we were talking, I started Googling stuff, and one thing that I typed in was just orange and gray.
Yeah.
Just like this into Google, and then went to images, and I mean, look at that. That just it's bold, it's dramatic, it's intense. I just got really excited, and I'm actually glad that the same search is coming up, because this image right here, that just speaks Retribution to me.
I'm not seeing the image.
Oh, you're not seeing the image?
Yeah, I'm still seeing it
okay.
On the toothpick.
Yeah, and the reason why you're not is because of the delay. So sorry about that, Anthony.
Don't worry.
But yeah, and in fact, we're going to do a little bit of stuff on the color wheel here, and there's going to probably be about a 10-second delay on that. So, but by now you should be seeing that image that I was mentioning. It's gray. It's kind of got some circles and some orange swirls in it there.
I did the same thing you did when I was thinking about this scheme, and I actually liked that picture enough that I set it to the background of my work computer.
That's pretty funny, man. That's pretty funny. So yeah, there's something about this scheme that I really feel that I'm connecting with, and I'm excited about. So I think it's gonna be pretty cool for you, man. Let me go ahead and minimize this now, and what I'm going to try and do here real quick is let me get rid of this window capture here. Is do it through Google, through the Google chat, to see if you can see the window that way. So just a second here, and boom. So there, you can see that now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So what I want to talk about now real quick is just kind of how we're going to lay these colors out, or what colors we're going to use on your models. So this is a really cool website that I use often when I'm trying to figure out color schemes. It's called Color Scheme Designer. Okay.
Yeah. I've used Peloton before for web design.
Yeah. Yeah, and I imagine that's probably what it was originally designed for, but I'm hijacking the hell out of it right now because, and have been for quite some time, because it works really well.
Yeah.
But one thing I think we need to do with this scheme to help convey that image, that modern image, is I think we really need to minimize the amount of additional colors that we use. I mean, if you look at this wallpaper here, it's just orange and it's gray, you know?
Yep.
And that's what makes it so strong and so bold. And I think if we just stick with a complementary color scheme, and, you know, on the color wheel, you know, 2 opposing colors, it'll give us 2 very strong dominant colors, but then it gives us the shades of the colors to work with as well. And so we can start having some fun with that. Now, if you rotate this around over here into the oranges, you know, you get yourself a nice bright pumpkin-y type orange. This is what we're left with right here, our scheme, okay? You got a nice strong blue, okay? And you've got a nice strong orange. You've got some flesh tones here. You've got some brown accent trims here, some blue complementary colors here. It's just a really strong, bold scheme. You can move that orange a little more into the red and start to turn some of these complementary colors into greens, or you can move that orange a little more into the yellow and really start to get into the dark blues. So I don't know which side of the fence you're wanting to sit on, if you're wanting to go more red, more yellow, or stick kind of right in the middle.
Honestly, kind of like right in the middle.
Okay. Kind of what you're seeing right there now?
Yeah, the colors in the bottom left-hand corner are particularly appealing. I like the kind of almost, there's like some little bit of coal black kind of color in there, just a little bit.
Yep. And that's where we're going to start formulating our gray from. Because see, the thing is with gray, gray really is no color, right? I mean,
right.
If I grab a bottle of gray, neutral gray off of my wall here from Vallejo, and you look at it, it's just gray. It's not a blue gray, it's not a green gray, it's not a brown gray, it's just gray. And so what we want to do when we build the gray color for your army is we want to have a touch of blue in that gray. So that way that gray is presenting with a little bit of contrast. Okay? If we go to, on this page, adjust scheme, and you start, you know, playing around with the contrast on these colors, okay, or the brightness or darkness of these colors, you can kind of see a little bit what I'm talking about there. I mean, right about there, again, looking at the lower left-hand corner, you're starting to get into a nice blue-gray color that's going to work really well with this orange that we're going to use as an accent color. So let's drop this screen off now, and we're back to Sierra, and what we're going to do now, I'm going to set her aside, pull out a paint card here, and we're going to start building this paint scheme a little bit. So the gray color that I'm first thinking of where we need to start is actually going to be Great Coat Gray, Privateer Press. Okay. And we also probably want to pull some coal black out, because I think that's going to be the basis of our gray right there. As far as the orange goes, I think we need to look at some kind of combination of these 3 colors. Caldor Red Highlight, Bloodstone, and Heartfire. I think these three colors, perhaps in just a straight 1-to-1 ratio, will give us that nice orange, and also actually give us a natural shadow and a highlight as well, which is really nice. So we'll set those aside. There was also a little bit of green in there too, if I remember right. Or no, excuse me, blue. There was a little bit of blue in there. Let me see. I'm just looking at it on my other screen here real quick. Yeah, there's a little bit of blue, light blue in there. So something that's almost akin to a little bit of arcane blue and a little bit of frostbite. This would probably make for your glowing effect right here, those colors. So let me also, my white balance is getting off a little bit, so let me just kind of adjust that so it's a little better. Okay, and then my focus too. Let me bring my focus down a little more. And that looks good. Okay, so what I want to start with is, let's see how this greatcoat gray looks. Pretty nice. I mean, it's definitely showing up very blue on the screen there. I'm getting much more of a darker gray effect. Is this too dark? Were you wanting a lighter gray?
I think that looks good. That's when I was kind of thinking about it. I was looking at gray coat gray myself.
Okay. Oh wow, great minds think alike here, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. See, that blends out really nice. And then I think just the shadow here would probably be the coal black, I would imagine. And then what you could do here, mixing a little bit of this coal black with the gray coat gray, you're definitely getting a darker shadow color there. And then to even warm that up a little bit more, and to tie in a little bit with some of the brown, a little umber, I think would work nicely in there for some of the real deep shadows. Coal black and umber make a fantastic black color without it actually being black. Yeah. Looks pretty good. Soften that up there. And then same with that there. There's your transition right there.
That looks good.
Yeah, it's a little blue on the screen. Let me adjust the color here just a little bit. And there we go. That looks a little more true to the color right there. So that's it. That's going to be our gray. So we'll base coat an actual great coat gray. We'll start building the shadows from coal black down to umber as the darkest shadow, and then to highlight this color. You know, I don't know how much we should really highlight this, to be honest, because I don't know if we want to have create too much contrast there on the gray. If we do any highlighting on the gray, it's going to have to be really, really thin, you know, minimally done. Just kind of looking at my colors here real quick. You know, I'm kind of thinking maybe I'm thinking maybe Ashton gray, although that might be a little brown, or possibly Troll Blood highlight. I'm going to hold off on the highlight color for now, Anthony. And when we actually see how the shadows start building, we can come back to the highlight color. Is that all right with you?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. Because I don't want to speak too prematurely on that. So So there's our gray. Let me get another paint card here. We'll work out your orange. And then we'll start talking about where we're going to place these colors at on the models. All right. So let's start with the Cador Red highlight as the base color here. You know Trevor from Chain Attack, right?
Oh yeah.
So his orange Scorn Army that I've painted for him is largely done in this orange color, Cador Red highlight. Yeah, and I think
I've seen those models in person. They are stunning.
Yeah, that was a fun army to paint, and Scorn has some new stuff coming out too, man. I'm excited to actually paint some more for him. I think it'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, they had a lot of releases today. They had the Bugs got their official page up on Privateer, as well as the new Zerkova unit did too.
Yeah. I'm hoping they have that new Menoth Warcaster at Lock and Load. I'd really like to pick him up.
He looks beastly, man.
Yeah, he looks pretty cool, man. He must be related to Resnick somewhere, I think, because they're both pretty solid-looking dudes.
Yeah.
All right. So, actually, I'm thinking that just the Cador Red highlight is just our base color, and then the Bloodstone, that'll work into our shadow, which we're probably not going to use a lot of shadow on the orange because we don't want to create too much contrast on that, because then you'll lose the sense of orange out of it. It'll start looking too dark. So something like that is probably how your orange is gonna progress next to the gray. That's some nice contrast right there. And then as far as the let me grab one more paint card here. As far as the glowing effect, I think we base coat that in Arcane Blue, P3 Arcane Blue. We're going to highlight that in Frostbite, and it's really not going to get any kind of shadow because the glow effect shouldn't have too much shadow to it. But what we can do to saturate the color a little bit so that there is some tonal variety or some value variety in it is we can add a little bit of turquoise ink to it, and that should give help deepen the shadows just a little bit, just enough without overpowering it.
And the lighter color there was Frostbite, you said?
Yeah, Frostbite, yeah. And when I'm all done here, Anthony, and sending everything back to you, I'm going to not only include these 3 cards that I just did, but I'm going to have a card for you that has each paint that I'm using written on it, along with a paint swatch of it as well. So you'll have all that information when everything is said and done.
Awesome.
Yeah. And yeah, the way we'll darken this up a little bit is just going to be the turquoise ink there. And we'll probably thin that down, I imagine, like a 1-to-1 type recipe. You don't want to use this fully concentrated because it's pretty strong stuff. But that's kind of be how your glowing runes are going to progress as we move along. So let's get some primer on this chick, and get some base coats done on her. Maybe even build a little bit of highlight. Get my air compressor turned on. And I need to grab a glove here. Now, how I know in our emails you talked about you have an airbrush and you've used it a little bit. How comfortable do you feel with it?
Well, I've when I first bought it, I bought kind of a cheap setup. I got a compressor from Harbor Freight just to kind of see if I was be something I like.
Okay.
But I ended up getting a Badger airbrush that was recommended, a Patriot 105.
Okay.
I used that at first to do just mainly. I live here in Kentucky, and it's like humid all the time.
Sure.
So I got it mainly to just do priming and maybe do some base coats. But I started using it to do a little more like doing some zenithal stuff, doing my base coats, and then for some of my stuff that I'm just trying to get on the tabletop quick, I'll do like a 45-degree highlight and like a highlight color.
Okay.
And go back and work the shadows in with a brush. I've not really done any fine detail work yet, but I have just recently bought a new airbrush that can handle that. I have a Renegade Chrome, which has a finer needle point.
Uh-huh.
I'm anxious to get to that. I just haven't got there yet.
Okay.
Haven't got my confidence built up.
Well, and you know, it's a steep learning curve on airbrushing, you know, and it sounds like you're heading the right direction. You're kind of starting out with kind of the big, broad, I don't want to say easy, but the kind of the base skills, you know, base coating and stuff like that, and a little bit of zenithal stuff. That's really good. And that's going to help you a lot. The smaller detail stuff is going to come with time.
Yeah.
And it's going to take some time to build some of those skills. But, you know, be patient with it. And the airbrushing that I'm going to do with you tonight, I'm going to keep it pretty general, so that way I'm not doing anything that's overly complex for you. What I do want to talk about, though, real quick is let's talk about where we're going to place colors at on her, okay? Because she's kind of a complicated model when you look at it. You know, there's a lot going on here. For those of you who are watching live, there is no head on this model, as you can see. I've left the head off so I can paint it separately. So we'll be, you know, doing that on a separate podcast, PaintCast, excuse me. And what we want to do, you know, she's got the armor plates, she's got the cloth going on, she's got some kind of secondary tabard there. On the back, this tabard has a lot of detail on it, you know. The spiky things coming out of the back here, which who knows what they are, I'm not even going to try and guess. And then you've got, you know, the various jewels and glowing runes that are spread throughout the whole of the armor. I think, if I remember right, Anthony, that most Retribution models have this 3-tiered shoulder pad in common, correct?
I think so.
Okay. So what I think we should do is, you know, the shoulders are going to be gray, but this central pad here, I think we should do orange.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And so you'll have all the gray, and then you'll have the central pad there, orange. And then, you know, on the arms here, she's kind of rocking the same thing, you know, where there's on the forearm guard here, there's the one right above the hand, the one on the forearm, and then the one on the elbow. I think we need to keep it pretty minimal of where we put the orange on the armor, because orange, this scheme is so strong that if we use too much orange, it's going to overpower the gray. But I think if we use too much gray, the orange then becomes an accent color, and it helps the model pop. So, I mean, I don't even know if we necessarily need to do the orange on any of the forearm guards there. You know, same with the legs. I mean, I'm almost thinking just that one part of the armor, orange, is all we're going to need to do. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I actually kind of like that. I think one of the things that made me like that picture we were looking at so much is that it's a huge field of gray, but the orange is just kind of so stark and so vibrant that it's enough. It's minimalist. Right.
Okay. Well, cool. I'm glad we're on the same page with that. Now, when it comes to Imperatus, he's not fully assembled yet. So let me grab the pieces here. You know, when you've got his large shoulder pad here, I think we can do the same thing. I think we can do, you know, like this central piece right here in orange, or, you know, maybe this piece here with the runes on it in orange. We can play with that in such a way as to kind of carry that theme throughout the whole army as you're moving around. You know, even on his, let me grab his helmet here, or his face. See, you know, you've got like this line here in the armor that kind of comes down. You know, paint the whole head gray, but then have this top part be orange. You know, or have it all be gray, and then just this part here that would be roughly a chin guard be just the orange part. So we want to try and be very selective and very specific about where you place the orange, because you don't want it, like I said, you don't want it to overpower the entire model.
Right.
In fact, let's just look real quick. We've got a couple minutes here. Let's just look real quick. Let me go into the Privateer Press website. And let's look at a couple of infantry models and see how that would carry over. And once I get there, I'll share the screen with you. There we go. Okay, so there we are with the Privateer Press page. If we go to the units here, and oh wow, I know why it's taken a while. It's because I'm streaming. So let's take the Dawn Guard Sentinel officer here. So right there, you can see he's got that 3-tiered shoulder pattern happening. Okay.
Right.
So all gray, and then just that middle one orange, and then the cloak here we could probably do in like the brown color that was on that color scheme, if you remember right.
Yep.
We could even play with it with blue a little bit. I mean, you got a lot of options there, but overall, you know, and like look on the leg here. See on the leg you've got the 3-tiered thing going on. Maybe just
do that tiny little one in the center.
Exactly. Yeah. So that should give you some ideas of where you can go with that, and how that can look, you know, on the actual models that you're going to paint. So, all right. So let me unshare this screen now, and we should be back to Issyria now, or Issyria. Okay, and then let me just make sure that the stream catches back up, because right now it looks really like there's a billion windows open. So, all right, good. So we're there. Okay, so for the primer for this model, I've been using the AK Interactive Black Surface Primer. It's the same stuff as the Vallejo Surface Primer. They're both a polyurethane primer. Here's what the Vallejo stuff looks like in white. Mm-hmm. I can't find any black anywhere. It's sold out everywhere online. I've looked. So, but they're both a polyurethane. Interestingly enough, AK Interactive is actually people who used to work for Vallejo. So I don't doubt that it's not the same recipe or some slight variation thereof. So it's a great product if you want to try that out at some point in the future.
Sure. Yeah, I'm interested. I got a bottle of that Stano Res from Badger. They were at Adepticon, and I picked that up to try it out. It seems okay. But yeah, I'm always interested in trying new stuff.
Yeah, and you know, one thing you'll notice as you kind of get more comfortable with airbrushing is you're going to gravitate towards things that work for your style.
Yeah.
You know, just like everybody has a unique painting style, everybody's going to have a unique airbrushing style as well. And you're going to find the products that work with you for that. You know, for me, I really like the P3 stuff. I really like Vallejo, and I use a lot of that. So, all right, so let me put this paper towel back under me here. And make sure my focus is okay. And most of this, you know, polyurethane primer they say it can be sprayed through your airbrush at about 30 psi with no diluting. Yeah, it can. I like to dilute it down just a little bit. I usually mix my primer about 4 to 1. 4 drops primer, 1 drop water. I just find it makes it just a little easier. And the other thing you want to do too is if you're priming your model and you plan on doing any brush painting on it, let that primer sit for about 8 to 12 hours. We're going to prime, let it dry for a second, and then base coat right over it, and then I won't touch it again for a few days, so it'll be okay. So mostly with the black, putting this on, I'm really going to just focus, from the bottom angle here, and make sure the shadows deeper inside and from the bottom are really nice and dark and well covered. Alright, and then for the rest of the model here, I'm just going to actually apply the black very thinly. I don't want to build up a lot of black. Some of the metal is even going to be shining through a little bit because I like to keep my primer layers very thin.
That's basically enough to get the paint to stick.
Yep, that's all the primer. Well, I shouldn't say that's all, but one of the main functions of the primer is to provide a surface for that paint to adhere to nicely. Okay, and that's about as far as I'm going to go on the priming. Don't need to go much further than that. It doesn't need to be a solid, opaque coat. Okay, it just needs to be a nice, even coverage. Sorry for coughing in your ear there, man. I'm coming off a cold.
That's all good, man.
All right, I'm going to empty this out real quick, clean it out real fast. All I'm doing at this point is just running some cleaner through it, making sure there's no paint stuck to the side of the wall or anything like that inside my cup. And then I run a little bit of water through it. And I'll do a more thorough cleaning when I'm done tonight, but for now, as I'm switching between colors, that's really all I need to do. So for the Great Coat Gray, I find that the P3 primer, P3 paint airbrushes really well when you thin it about 50%. So, 3 or 4 drops of paint, 3 or 4 drops of thinner. And that ratio seems to hold pretty consistent for me. I use Vallejo airbrush thinner, and I've recently started using this thinner in about the last, I don't know, 2-3 months maybe. And I've noticed since I've started using it that I don't have as much tip dry, and my paint just seems to flow smoother. So, your mileage may vary. Idaho, where I live, is pretty dry, so I don't have to deal with the humidity. So I don't know how it's going to affect you down there. But well, did the Badger set come with its own thinner?
It did come with thinner. It came with drying retarder,
okay.
Which I've been using just a little bit at a time, especially if I'm doing a lot of a particular color.
Yeah.
But I've just been, I don't know, maybe this is bad, but some stuff I read, I've been thinning with Windex.
Okay. Yeah, and that's fine. I've done that before. In fact, this airbrush thinner from Vallejo has a very ammonia smell to it, so I wouldn't be surprised if there is ammonia in it. And of course, the Windex has the ammonia in it. I've done that before and not had any issues, and I don't see why you wouldn't either. So, what do you think, though, the Badger paints that you've been using, though?
On the Medicare line, I gotta say, the metallics are pretty abysmal. But there's some of the colors that I actually really like. I painted a lot of Signar to get ready for the Retribution this year, and I've based a lot of them it's a Nautilus blue is the color, so really dark navy blue, and covered really well. Didn't have any problems with it. Didn't really have to do a whole lot of thinning, just a little bit of thinning to get it how I liked it. But I picked up the whole set of them for cheap last year at Gen Con. They had the whole set for like, it was something like $75. It was crazy cheap for what it was. And
Wow.
I've been fairly impressed with what little I've used of it. But there's some colors that are obviously just not as good, and I still like the Vallejo Game Air and the Model Airs better, specifically the metallics.
I bought a set of the Badger miniature paints here about a month ago, and I've used probably about half a dozen of the colors. And I think for airbrushing, once I've kind of figured out how to use them, I actually kind of like them for airbrushing. The reason why I'm sticking mostly though with the P3 paints for these PaintCasts is because this is what I know I can do consistently right now.
Yeah.
And being on air with a client isn't the time to experiment.
And I think another thing too is that I'm not had a good experience with the military stuff being as durable as P3 paint.
Oh yeah. That's one thing about P3 paints that I really like is they have quite a durable finish to them. Okay, so there is our base coat of the Great Coat Gray. And what I'm going to do is set this aside real quick, and I want to build a little bit of shadow on the cloak that she's wearing there. And I just need somewhere to dump this. This is just some extra paint here. Because remember, our deepest shadow color is going to be the Umbral Umber.
Mm-hmm.
And for her cloak, I'm thinking we're going to do a variation on the orange. We'll do probably just paint that cloak bloodstone. And before we start getting all in there with the bloodstone, though, I want to put some of the shadow color of the Umbral Umber in there, so that the bloodstone is a little easier to build. And we're going to knock that out real quick, and I'll show you how to do that. And then I think we'll probably wrap up your portion of this tonight. For those of you that are watching live on Twitch right now, if you have any questions about what you've seen tonight, feel free to put them up in chat. Here in about 5 minutes or so, I will take the opportunity to kind of review those questions and answer them on air. And then once I do that, I'm going to take a 5-minute break to bring my next client on air with us and move on to working on a little bit of Cricks and getting Deathjack painted. So don't go anywhere. Hang out and hang tight, and we're gonna be back in a few minutes once I finish this up. So now for the Umbral Umber, Anthony, where I'm going to want to place this. Let me kind of switch my hands up here a little bit. This hold on. Let me just set this down altogether. Should have explained this first and then mixed the paint. That's okay. So this cloak here, this long one, I think we should. I want to paint that in the straight bloodstone, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then this secondary cloak, the smaller cloak, I want to do that in the Cowder Red highlight as the actual orange. And then same on her little tunic here. But we're going to reverse that. This inner area here, I'm thinking bloodstone, and then this outer area here, actually this outer area here, I think we'll leave gray.
Okay.
So I'm going to have to go back over that because it's didn't get coated quite as well. Because we want to make sure not overpower it with the orange. And this bloodstone, we're going to do more. It's going to be more of a brown when we're done. Did you see the cane that or the epic cane that I did a few weeks ago?
The cream and the teal.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So the color of his coat is what I'm thinking
Gotcha.
we're going to do right here. Okay, so
Yeah, that looks good.
it's brown, but it's more of an orange brown as opposed to a red brown. So what I'm going to do here with the umbral umber in my airbrush is I'm going to build the shadows that are going to be, up in this area right in here. So a lot of that area is going to be shadowed, so you're not going to be able to see a lot of what's going on in there anyway. Now let me rinse this out, and we're going to hit it with the bloodstone, and I think that'll be a good place to call it.
Okay.
Yep.
Were you spraying that at 30 psi still?
I actually run my air compressor at about 24, 25, 26,
Okay.
right in that area. And I very rarely adjust that setting. I'm too lazy.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Yeah. So I've just, I adapt my airbrushing technique to work without having to adjust my PSI. So. All right. So did you have any questions from what we've covered tonight so far?
Let's see here. I kind of have a little bit of an airbrush question. It's not something we went over, but if I had a minute to pick your brain.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, I was just, so, like I told you earlier, I think before the stream started, I bought a kind of a cheap compressor and airbrush setup when I first tried to see if I was going to enjoy airbrushing, I've upgraded my airbrush. I feel pretty good with it. I know how to take it down and clean it real well and kind of know its quirks. But I've still got that cheap compressor. Is that something you think that is a vital part, or is it more the brush? Or
okay.
Just curious.
I'll answer that here in just a second. Let me apply this highlight, and then we'll go over that. You're gonna when you do this type of work on your own, you're going to do this just like you're doing zenithal priming, okay?
Okay.
So you're just going to come in at it from an angle. In fact, if you look, you can see the parts of where the brown have not coated yet. That's because that's where this highlight color is going to go. And then you're just going to slowly build that up. Looking at it from the front there. Oh man, that looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Once we put that nice bright Cador red highlight in there, oh man, that's looking really cool. And we'll clean this highlight and this shadow up with some good brush work as we move on. But this just kind of establishes very quickly for us where our shadows are going to be on this cloak, where our highlights are going to be, okay, and really helps build that out. You know, and you notice here on her little tunic, I put a good amount of the highlight color on there because I don't want it to be very dark in here. I still want there to be some color and some contrast there.
Gotcha.
So there you go, man. What do you think?
Oh, it's looking good. I'm getting pumped.
Yeah, that looks really nice right there, man. I think this is really gonna turn out pretty good. And I'll play around before our next time on air. I'll play around with some highlight colors so that we find something that's going to work for this gray. So now that I've kind of got an idea of how some of these colors are going to interact, I can do that a little more. As far as the Cowder red highlight goes, what I will do before we meet next is this small inner tunic right here. I'm going to base coat in a solid base of the blood tracker brown, along with this middle plate here, and then I'm going to go over that with the Cowder red highlight to build the orange up. Okay? Because Cowder red highlight doesn't cover very well, and
no, it does not.
Right, and the bloodstone though covers very well, and is a logical step up to that orange color.
So you'd said blood tracker brown. Did you mean bloodstone is what you're going to coat it in?
Yes, thank you. Bloodstone, sorry.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
No, it's okay.
Yeah. So the bloodstone, both of those colors actually cover really well, bloodstone and blood tracker brown. But I'm going to base coat those areas that are going to be orange with that color, and then put the orange color on because
Gotcha.
it'll build better. And then same with these two long tunics back here, pieces of tunic. But then this trim on her tunic around the waist, we're going to keep that gray, so that we don't lose the contrast. We don't want to go too far one way or the other. So, all right. So let me take a look back in the chat room and see if there was any questions that came up that I can answer. Wow, busy chat room tonight, guys. Fantastic. All right. So a little talk about some of the casters that we were talking about earlier. A lot of people going back and forth about airbrushing, different needle sizes. All right. Milliput wash. What's a milliput wash? Okay. Someone had said that that's what they do with their miniature, as either priming it instead of the milliput wash, or a milliput wash in addition to priming. Basically what that is, I don't have a good example of it. Actually, maybe I do with the Death Jack here. Let me set this aside. If you look at Death Jack's armor plate, the big one that sits right on the top. Let me zoom in a little bit on this so you guys can see it. You can actually see there is a bit of texture going on with this metal. Almost a little bit of pitting even. You can see it really well right there. What you can do with milliput is mix it up and then mix it with some water and thin it out, and you apply a layer of it over the metal surface, and it'll fill those pores and smooth this out really, really well. It's kind of labor intensive on a tabletop army that you're painting. I would not recommend doing it. It's going to take a lot of work. But you know, if you're doing a nice display piece or something like that, it's worth looking into. So that's what a milliput coat is. Let's see here. Oh, and he explained it. So whoever was asking the question. Okay. Okay, I don't see any other questions here relative to what we covered tonight. And yeah. All right, cool. So no real questions. Ed Defoe's asking, are you going to show how to mask that area out? I don't know what area you're referring to there, Ed. If you're referring to Issyria and some of that detail stuff, She's probably not going to get any masking. From here on out, everything's probably going to be hand brush work that's going to be done on her. So, so that's about it with Issyria tonight for this paint cast. Anthony, any other questions?
Just the thing about the compressor.
Oh yeah, gosh, I'm sorry. Thanks for reminding me. Okay, here's my spiel on compressors. If you are painting, if you're a casual painter, if you're so here's how I define someone who casually paints. Someone who's painting maybe 3 hours a day, okay, 2 hours a day. I would call that casual painting on a fairly regular basis. Something like what you have is probably going to be fine, okay? You are going to run a little bit of a risk of your air compressor heating up. When your air compressor gets too hot, the air inside expands, but the volume expands, but the pressure doesn't expand. So what the result is you lose air pressure. Mm-hmm. And that's the biggest risk that you run into with those small little hobby air compressors, is that if you start going for a long time, if you're airbrushing like continually for like an hour and that thing is running for that hour, it's going to heat up, and that's what's going to happen. So you probably are okay based on what you're telling me. I don't think that's going to be a huge issue for you.
Gotcha.
Now, are there advantages though to upgrading to a nicer air compressor? Yes, there is. The air compressor that I use is made by California Air Tools. When this video goes to YouTube, I will post a link to the air compressor that I use. And that air compressor, I can actually run about 3 airbrushes off of at the same time. And it's really no louder than the hobby airbrush that you have. And in a 20-minute session of continuous airbrushing, it turns on maybe twice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's got a lot bigger of a tank to store that air, and it's also a dual piston, so it can fill that tank in about 60 seconds. So, like I say, it's very quiet. And it was very reasonably priced. I think I paid $200 for it, which,
oh, wow.
yeah, I mean, it really wasn't all that bad. The California air compressors are quite nice. I've owned several of them. This is my first one for airbrushing, but with some of the other work that I've done and other places that I've worked, they've had them, and I've had really good luck with them. So they're a nice air compressor. But yeah, so the advantages of having a nicer air compressor are you're not going to be running it as often, okay? You're going to be able to have more consistent air pressure because you're not going to worry about things overheating. You can run multiple air brushes if you need to. And it's just going to last longer because it's not going to get as much wear and tear. So I don't know if it's something you necessarily need to worry about today, but if the opportunity ever presents itself for you to get a nicer one, take advantage of it, because all it will do is help you out. So
yeah, got a birthday coming up, so.
Well, there you go. You got to have a reason to doing that.
Yep.
So anyway, guys, so we'll go ahead and wrap it up here, Anthony. I'll shoot you an email in the next day or two about when we'll meet next and kind of where we go from here. If there's any other questions that come up in the meantime, though, contact me on my email, and we can hash it out. For those of you that are on the Twitch channel right now, hang out for just a few minutes. I'm going to take a quick 5-minute break, bring my next guest on, kind of reset my desk here, and we're going to jump into some painting on DeathJack. And if you have your questions, make sure you throw them up onto chat so we can talk. If you want to email me, my email address is redmodeling@gmail.com. You can also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/redmodelingpaint. And would love to hear any questions that you guys have. If you're interested also in getting your own PaintCast tutorial done, hit me up at one of those spots and we can talk and I can share those details with you. But in the meantime, guys, hang out, and I'll be back in about 5 minutes. Thanks a lot, Anthony. It was great having you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, man. We'll see ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.